Offshoring, outsourcing. So two questions I would like to address here in this section was what is offshoring and what is outsourcing, or what is the combination of these two, and what are the advantages and disadvantages for multinational enterprises. Here I created a 2x2 matrix, I think that can illustrate the differences. On the horizontal axis I have the location, meaning is it national at home or is it done internationally, meaning in a foreign country. And on the vertical axis I have who is owning or who is operating that business. Is it internal, so inside the organization, or externally, meaning you contract the job to someone else. Yeah, and if you look on control and external, that's what we label outsourcing. So the companies don't do it themselves, but they hire another organization, another people to do the job. So it's outsourced, outside the organization. And that can be domestic, meaning you can outsource your jobs here within the same country, let's say within Germany, or you can outsource to a different country. And then in terms if it's internal, if it's inside, then you have internal domestic supply, you supply it from within your organization, within your country, or you can go offshore, international offshoring, but not outsourcing. It's inside your company, meaning for international offshoring, Volkswagen, they have a Volkswagen factory in China, and it's also run by Volkswagen, and they do it themselves, but in a foreign country. So offshoring versus sourcing versus onshoring, that's now a different question. So onshoring is meaning bringing it back to your home country. So offshore sourcing, utilizing the overseas work without a physical transfer of workers. And it allows multinational enterprises to produce goods at lower cost in developing countries. You take advantage from offshoring, from lower labor costs. You mean you relocate to a different country, and there you can produce or do services at a lower cost. Offshoring sourcing can also present some kind of threats to local employment, because then also knowledge maybe then more resides in the multinational organization and not in the local community. Here are some benefits and drawbacks of international outsourcing. There's a very substantial trend nowadays. Companies like to focus on their core competencies. That's what the company can do well. Everything else will be outsourced, because then the company is more flexible and can focus on its core competencies and become the best company in that specific area. That increases flexibility, more outsourcing, because internationally has more opportunities. You can always rely on the cheapest and highest quality wherever, and draw from that. And that can increase global competitiveness. And that could also maximize the expertise of the individual operation and your own people, because you focus on your own core competence, and everything else you outsource. And outsourcing can very easily be internationally. And that you can really focus and develop and build your own workforce. It may also result then in job creation at home, because you collect all these best people at home, and everything else that is not important to your business, you outsource. And could also be outsourced internationally. That can have all kinds of drawbacks. And it's flexible. You can focus on your core competence, but at the same time you lose out. And it can be if you become dependent on your contract workers, on your outsourced partners, because now if the dynamics of the market change, the bargaining power changes, and suddenly also it can change substantially towards the supply company, international outsourcing company, away from your own market power. So because of that, it may not be an option forever. And it can also lead to all kinds of changes in dynamics, because if you always outsource, also the prices will go up. And then if the outsourced company becomes more powerful, they can also charge higher prices, and it erodes maybe your business model. It's not always possible. And if it's outside your organization, there can be all kinds of conflicts. And if you operate internationally, that can also mean cultural conflict. in principle or in general, there was this long trend, outsourcing, offshoring, internationalizing, taking advantage of global supply chain, reducing costs while also increasing quality. That has been the idea of the last 20, 30 years. In recent years, we see the opposite development, onshoring. Already a couple of years ago, Adidas started to produce Adidas sneakers in Germany again, with the use also of robots and so forth. But more severe influence had the more recent COVID crisis. Maybe you have heard of the supply chain crisis as well. Maybe you're too young to order cars, or if you recently wanted to buy a new e-car from whatever brand, from Porsche or Tesla, you can't get it right away. You have to wait. If you want to buy a BMW or whatever car, you may need to wait for 1 year because the supply is interrupted. You don't get the supplies from China or from other countries because of production restrictions. That causes all kinds of problems. Particularly everything that is related to semiconductor chips, computer chips, there's a scarcity. The supply chain is interrupted. You don't get your car, you don't get your computer, this and that right away because disrupted supply chains. And that can also be something for the long run. So many companies are now very worried and they try to find some ways how to deal with that. So many companies are reconsidering their global supply chains. Less outsourcing, less offshoring, to be more able to respond, to be more resilient and flexible in these market environments. However, onshoring, meaning before companies produced abroad and they sourced abroad, now they would like to do it at home, comes at a price. Companies went abroad and they outsourced for a reason, lower cost, higher quality, and then they created all kinds of facilities abroad, and just shifting it back, not easy, it's time consuming, it takes time. Maybe also from an HR perspective, you don't have the people to do it at home. Then you also need to import people to do the job. And then again, also it's expensive. We had also your classmate, labor costs in India, labor costs in Germany, quite different. And then you will also import higher costs. But still, that's happening. So generally here you see the trend, offshoring, how it changes. We do see a change, much less so in recent years, and even more so more recently. To give an example, Volkswagen. All of you know Volkswagen here probably. Volkswagen is headquartered in Wolfsburg in our state. Have you heard about the battery factory? Yeah, you do? You smile? So that's a very major investment. As you may know, the whole industry is shifting towards e-mobility, battery-fueled energy that drives the engines of cars in the future. Volkswagen used to source these batteries from elsewhere. There's only a few number of countries that produce car batteries. It's probably Korea, Japan, China, the US. Germany, no. And Volkswagen, one of the largest or the largest car company, then decided we need to do it ourselves. Onshoring and insourcing, they do it themselves and it's very expensive. Nevertheless, they started. Here you can see the picture. You see the minister of our state, here the chancellor and Volkswagen executives, and they just recently, in July of this year, they started setting up a factory in Salzgitter, a town between here and Wolfsburg, and they invest 20 billion euros. Not all in this year, but over a couple of years. And they will create 20,000 jobs, 5,000 or more in Salzgitter. And it's also interesting, we'll talk maybe more about this later. But Germany has not produced batteries. Do we have professionals, engineers who can do it? No, we don't. So they need to recruit people. And I recently talked to Volkswagen, one of my former students who's now working there. And so they headhunt these people from the US, from Korea, from Japan, and all try to bring them here to Salzgitter and to set up the factory. And the Salzgitter factory is supposed to be the the master factory of Volkswagen. They start in Salzgitter, and then they will have more factories across Europe. That's a major investment, also involves all kinds of international HR issues. We may come back to this case throughout our lecture series.